Go.
Let's begin with a story of how knowing that homecoming dance is next week. Let me begin with a story of how my high school sweetheart gave me her phone number. First of all, it was very awkward. She was eating lunch and I approached her out of the blue asking for her number. Most likely out of pity, she gave me her number and didn't let me write it down on a note or enter it on my phone before she disappeared around a corner. This left me in the predicament of trying to memorize her number. According to the Atkinson-Schriffen study of 1968, on average a person has 18 seconds to remember this type of information. Immediately I began repeating the numbers in my head and trying to associate the numbers with things I already know. Eventually I was able to memorize her number and never pursue text her after school. All of you being high school students have had to memorize something this year. But how long do you remember it? After you take the final exam, do you actually remember the information? My name is Jack Johnny Schnick, and I'm a student at Augsburg College. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. The purpose of my presentation is to introduce you to how the human memory works. I will be covering the following two topics. 1. What are George Miller's theories on short-term memory? And 2. How to transfer information from your short-term memory into your long-term memory. Finally, before we conclude, we will do a short experiment on George Miller's theory of short-term memory. Excuse me. Let's begin with George Miller's theory. In 1956, George Miller published a journal in the Psychology Review, revolutionizing the world of cognitive science. He was absolutely fascinated on how the human memory affected our daily lives. In his experiment, he asked participants to repeat the exact numbers he would either show them or say verbally. He found that on average the participants were able to repeat 5 to 9 numbers. This became the magical number 7 of short-term memory. He then realized that by chunking the numbers or the sequence into smaller parts, people were able to remember far further amounts of information. For example, let's look at the number 651-497-4012. Automatically in the phone book, we are already doing this, creating these numbers into smaller segments which are more easier to remember. It's much easier to remember these 3 segments than the whole list of numbers. Now that we've talked about short-term memory, let me transition it out to get your short-term memory into long-term memory. Short-term memory, for the mind, short-term memory acts as like a post-it note. Within 18 seconds, the mind is already creating new post-it notes. In order to prevent this disregard information, the mind uses long-term memory. In order to transfer information from your short-term memory into your long-term memory, there are several techniques. One of these techniques is through mental repetition. For example, all of you being high school students, most of your classes meet every day, Monday through Friday. The reason your teachers do this is because they want to have the information constantly repeated to you every day, making it more easy to retain. Other commonly used methods are association and meaning. When you associate something with a meaning, or you make meaning with something you're trying to learn, the information becomes less foreign and more familiar, making it easier to remember. Other common used way is through motivation. When you have a previous knowledge on information, it is more easier to retain that because the brain will automatically store information on already used files. Now that I've talked briefly about short-term to long-term memory, let's do the experiment on George Miller's experiment. Here's what we're going to do. We need a participant from the audience, please. Someone will say the experiment, and someone will say yes, hopefully. And I'll go, okay, here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to read a list of numbers, and I want you to repeat them back to me in the exact same order that I said them. First, we'll do a practice round. So 4, 3, 2, 1. They'll say 4, 3, 2, 1. And then I'll say a list of numbers, 18, 7, 6, 5. And then they'll repeat those numbers, and hopefully they can repeat the exact same numbers that I said up to 5 or 9, showing that George Miller's theory that people are only able to remember up to 7 numbers. If that doesn't work, I have a backup plan of writing names on the board and erasing it within 20 seconds. And hopefully they won't be able to write all the names, and that's my backup plan. In conclusion, now that we've covered George Miller's theory of short-term memory, saying that the people are only able to memorize 5 to 9, the magical number 7, then we talked about how to transfer information from your short-term memory into your long-term memory through mental repetition, association, meaning, and motivation. And finally, we concluded in doing a short experiment on George Miller's hypothesis, or excuse me, theory. If you're interested in more information on this topic, I suggest you go to the New York Times website. If they have numerous amounts of interesting articles on George Miller's life and experiments. At this time, I'd like to open the room for further discussions. Thank you for your time.